the kid. It's Nonstop the Hitman. And his Grammy is from Cardi B. The song he had on her record is called Drip. And so that got him, I think, what's rap album or whatever the name of the Grammy is, rap album of the year. I don't know what the name of it is. And then he also, with the artist Drake, had got a nod for album of the year, I believe it was. And this would be for 2018-19 is the time that, his Grammy and gold, multiple platinums. It's something because platinum records and gold records, they aren't a standard thing. You can get them to be really ornate or, kind of played down. The one we got from Atlantic back in the day, the Nu Shooz album, was just sort of stock. But these are kind of like,
They got some bling on them.
They got some bling. Yeah, it's kind of his style. It's the way he rolls. He's one of those guys with 200 pairs of Nikes.
Oh yeah, well, he's nonstop, man. There's just no.
He's nonstop. Yeah, he's not. And he can write like 10 records. 10 tunes. We used to call them tracks. The kids call them beats. Right. He can do like 10 beats a day.
That's crazy, man.
He's an animal. He'll wake up in the morning, grab a cup, even if he even grabs a cup, the Pro Tools, and then you can find him slumped over the Pro Tools sleep after he's just worn himself out. He's that kind of.
We'll get into that story because you told me a fun story about sleeping at the console, but I want to go back thinking about your pop. Dad was a bass player.
Yes.
Were you playing other instruments and decided, man, I want to do what my dad does, or how did you get into it?
What happened was when I first started, I wanted to play electric bass. I didn't want to play upright bass. I didn't want to, I wanted to play Sly and the Family Stone or James Brown or James Taylor. That's how weird, I was just sort of really eclectic. And so I wanted to have all these different. To me, if the song is good, that's what it takes. It's not like I play this style of, and it's like the popular music, whatever the thing is that creates that popular music is where I've always been interested in playing. So, I didn't want to play upright bass, so he didn't really show me as much other than me ask pointers. Okay. That'd be the whole thing. Dad, what about this? And what about that? And or how, just stuff of that ilk is where our musical relationship. And I remember one time on a Christmas morning, because Mom and Dad had gotten divorced, and this a couple years after that. And, he came by Christmas sort of, morning, and we were sitting in the kitchen, me and my older brother, who's a phenomenal guitar player, Edwin Fountaine, and phenomenal guitar player. And, he gets these good gigs, but COVID knocked out. He had to schedule a gigs where he was getting ready to go to like China with the Love Unlimited Orchestra. Although Barry White since passed, the band is still doing a thing, And he had all these dates lined up, fat dates,
Hold on, man. You're good. You're jumping ahead. Go back to Christmas morning.
Okay, Christmas morning. Thank you. I will always do that. Kevin, you've been around me enough to know I sidetrack like no one's business.
Me too. You and I are ADD.
Yeah, that's all it is. Yeah, just as it is. It just makes me cute. That does. Anyway, so Christmas morning, we were sitting around playing Stevie Wonder or something, knocks me off my feet or something, sitting around the kitchen table with me with a little electric bass and my brother with a guitar, playing something that had hinges and stuff. It's, not just chunka, but something that was complex and intricate. And I remember looking up at Dad, and Dad's eyes were just full of it was just like, man, you guys look who you are, look that you're this, look, so that's a lot of the way I feel about my kid.
How old were you?
How old am I?
How old were you on that Christmas morning when Dad noticed?
God, 16, 15, 16, young enough, that you're still, I'll get a whole Christmas, you're not one of the stops, at Christmas. At 21, you go to 5 places for some reason. You're let out, but we're still home, at that point. So, yeah.
I was thinking, you mentioned that you had mom and dad get divorced a couple years before that. So as a musician who's getting into those years, man, those formative years that you got the testosterone and the puberty happening and
Yeah.
life already doesn't make a ton of sense. So was music like a huge sort of like savior for you at that point?
Yeah. I always feel like I didn't choose music. It kind of picked me. And I just didn't have a choice. It's like, go that way, go west, young man. It was for me, it was just do that. And so that's yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when when it was telling you and drawing you in, were you feeling like, I want to be on stage, I want to be in the studio, or did it matter?
In part, it was more like whatever that feel was or that groove was pulled me, the thing. And the other part was an accoutrement, it just kind of came with, and of course one thinks when you're that age that you're going to, be the richest rock star ever. And it's just going to, keep opening and opening and opening like that. And that's not necessarily the case, but I've been down some great paths as a result of this and gotten to play with these great here and those great folks over there. So, yeah.
Man, I don't want to jump ahead, but I got to tell you, the first time I saw you, I had just moved to town. I moved from Montana in 1994, and I think I saw you 94 or 5 do this event, I think at Portland State University. You played with the guy who was teaching jazz in Westland High School, Jeff Cumston, right?
God, I think we may have done something with Cumston way back in the day, I think.
Yeah, I remember seeing you, in this little like school university hall and thinking, wow, okay, this is what I walked into. I came out from Montana, this little sleepy town, and just guys throwing it down. I remember seeing that weekend, seeing Israel Ano on drums and you playing Foxworth, and Reinhardt was playing with his dad.
Have to give it up, right? I play drums.
I realized, okay, so I know where my limitations are. I know stylistically what I can't do. And but I was encouraged. I was excited, right? Because I knew it wasn't just that you had the chops. Even in Montana, man, the where I came from had an incredible amount of really talented musicians. Rob Kohler, my bass player, this guy that took me under his wing, had played Montreux Jazz Festival a bunch, man. And he was like kind of a protege of Jocko, man, a great player. But when I came out here to Portland, there was a welcoming, it was a family vibe. And I was kind of nervous about going into the big city, right? But everybody made you feel welcome. I didn't feel intimidated by the player, feeling like it was a clique.
Yeah.
And you were the welcoming guy. I was hoping so bad to get to play with you someday, because I watched the way you interact with the drummer, and you make the drummer, no matter who it is, so much better because you're listening and you're feeling. It feels so good to play with you. And so I just got to say, I don't know, like how much of that came from dad or how much of that came from, your early days of playing. But I kind of want to talk about like where that stuff comes from. Was there somebody that you saw growing up, outside the family that you said, oh man, I just love the way that guy plays. I love his feel. Was there anybody like that for you?
Yeah, a couple of them. There was a guy that no one knew his name, and he played on all of the R&B stuff, and nobody knew people's names weren't on. Side guys weren't. And later on, I find out it was James Jamerson. Is one of those people who's just it's a magical feel. And then the person who lit me up inside was I turned on like one of the late night TV shows of the day. I think Don Kirshner's Rock Concert, or could have been Saturday Night Special, or Saturday Night Special. Is that what it was called? Midnight Special. Yeah. Could have been one of those things. I think it was Don Kirshner's Rock Concert, and there was this a little band on there called Return to Forever. Oh, yeah. And we saw Stanley Clarke play bass. It was like that. I was kind of done. Yeah. I mean, it was like that just pulled me into a thing because of his precision and the lightness of his being, kind of, and then of course it's like Verdine, White, Earth, Wind and Fire, and all the different little influences. So it's not like I'm an acolyte of one. It's like all these different people have this thing. I mean, if the feel is crazy tight, I think the song is called I think it might be called Orleans or New Orleans or something. That Mamas and the Papas, John, what's his name? John Phillips? No, that's Michelle Phillips and John. Anyway, he had a little single that probably made it to number 40 on the charts. It had this kind of boom, ticka boom, ticka boom, ticka boom, ticka boom feel to it. But the feel is so good on it that it pulled me in. So I'm listening to, Give It Up, Turn It Loose by James Brown in one ear, and the other thing is just on 5, 1 to 5, sort of a thing, and it would just pull all these things would pull me in these grooves me. So that's yeah.
I love that there are people that are watching this that whether they've seen you play or maybe they're musicians, but if they're not musicians, they can still get the feel from the way you play by the way you sing those parts. It's funny, man, because you've got this, of course, this rhythmic sense to you, but you're singing rhythmic parts and you're making it feel good just by your singing, which is wicked. I was curious to know because some of the bass lines you just sang. I mentioned to you, I'm doing this studio thing with Mike Skill from Romantics, and Mike played me some new stuff that we're going to work on, and he had this bass line that was so Beatles, doom, ding, da, doom, dee, doom, dee, doom, bing, and it was so wicked. And I thought, I think that band, right? It was, you look at the magic behind all the writers, and I didn't think much of McCartney, really in his bass playing as being innovative and unique because I was ignorant, really. But because guys from that era. I mean, he was a little bit later, but like Entwistle had all the attention, right? Because he had the chops. And as you grow up, when you're younger, chops are so important. You just think about, playing so many notes and so fast and everything. But when I hear that, like you can't help but move when you hear like that McCartney bass line, So when you mentioned these other guys like Verlaine, from Earth, Wind and Fire, if I didn't know those people's names, but I went to see that band, I'm not a dancer, but it makes you want to dance, right? And so as a drummer, you and the way you play make me kind of feel like I'm dancing behind the kit. So, I was thinking about your relationship with drummers. Do you, because it's so unspoken, right? There's not a conversation where we say, hey, Gary, make me feel this way. And then, we'll it's like, force it. I've just seen you come up with something simple, and the groove kind of evolves a lot. I played that solo at the beginning of this interview, but I've seen you do so many solos. You've got some references throughout every solo I've seen you do, but it's all about this flow, man. And so when you have a conversation with the drummer, not a verbal conversation, but a musical conversation, who leads?
Both goes back and forth.
Okay.
It really, yeah. Oh, yeah. I wish I had a real definitive out. Well, I lead it and the drummer follows, but it's both of them. Whatever they're setting down, that thing you mentioned something earlier about making you sound better. Well, it's absolutely that for me. It's like you got that boom chuck that's crazy. It's like a Bonham thing that you do, and it's just crazy, and it's simple, but it's nuts. And it shows. You get to play with like lots of people that you like. So, but yeah, it's crazy. And like also, I'm gonna tie some stuff in. I noticed there's a little chat underneath.
Yeah.
And one mentioned chat section was who is the other people in the video. And I can't really scroll in the chat section because I'm on my phone. Which, sorry guys, that's not my computer, it's my phone.
I'm not even seeing that.
In that band that I was playing that little on the beginning of this, a little doing that solo, and that's why the solo itself didn't call me chops over it. I didn't have to try to make you say my name at the end of at the solo, right?
Yeah.
Like Muhammad Ali beating you down. What's my name? I didn't feel like it because the pocket was so right.
Right.
That all I want to do is be up in that pocket, just hit it, The drummer in that band is the drummer from the band Pleasure. That's Brian Foxworth playing drums. He's also making little singing things that are going on. And now, all that stuff. That's B Fox, Brian Fox, B Fox Productions, I think is that little thing. And On percussion, you can see off to the other side of me is a guy named Chuck Barber.
Okay.
Chuck Barber, the band War went through a mess back in the day. And one of the members from War went with half of the mess. And then the rest of the members all went and did their own band. They have to call it the Lowrider Band because it's legal stuff, right? So the group of most of War went one way, and one of the guys went with the legal stuff. Chuck Barber is the percussionist for the Lowrider Band, which was called War. Really, it's really War. You can't say that because it's of legally stuff. The guys who sang on the songs and wrote all the songs and did all that stuff. So that's Chuck Barber on percussion, and Brian Foxworth from the band Pleasure, and everybody else. He's a stalwart, as you know, in our little planet. He's our go-to guy, for that. That's the guy,
Yes.
Plus, I can see a new person fill up a tip jar like he can. He gets this thing where it sounds like he's preaching. He would hate that because, his own religious conviction for you to say that it sounds like preaching. But he talks about, ladies and gentlemen, tonight you may buy a lottery ticket. And it's better to give, and you may win the mega bucks lottery, but it's better to give than receive, and God, and he'll say this stuff in a tip jar will have $150 in it in a crowd of 30 people. It's crazy you can do this. But man, when he's laying down that groove, it's like I'm saying, I wanted to be play a punishing part on top of it and not say, look at my chops. Aren't they like Arnold Schwarzenegger's muscles? Aren't they? No, I didn't have that in me. I just wanted to just go hit that thing. It was going, that's all it needed.
He's very much like that too. I mean, that cat, Brian could play anything, but he's the king of doing just that too. Like he'll size the room and he'll make it feel good without anybody realizing what he's doing. It just, he's got like Jedi mind trick powers on his drum kit, So.
Yeah. And then he'll play chops. It'll, make you just slay you. If you're a drummer, I could see watching Foxworth like this all night. It's like, oh.
Yeah. There's a lot of pants peeing when I'm watching him, but, Andy Madsen said he got to watch you play last night. So were you?
Andy came out. Yeah. It was so awesome to see him. Like I'm saying, Dane Ryan's on there. Yeah.
Love Dane.
Yeah, he came out. It was a crazy packed house to the point of where it made me nervous. There were so many people that I'm not used to post-COVID seeing that many people all in the same room. So, fingers are crossed that hopefully we're enough above the hump that we didn't have. It's not going to be an issue. We're like 25 of us from that deal. But Andy was there. It was kind of people are so hungry to listen to what you and I do. They're just hungry. And so it's an off night jam session, home band sets. We had a whole nother band set in, a guy named Al Perez band set in last night. Al did his thing, he brought us like 5 people, brought us all his crew, drums, everybody.
Okay.
Bass. Andy came in and we did some of his craziness, and the thing was, the jam was this guy, his name's Kerry Dean Stickler, who happens to be my roommate.
Right.
He has a little jam on the edge of Portland. It's just you go to the edge of Portland, and there you are. There you have it on the east side of Portland.
Okay.
And so it's called the Working Man's Jam. It always starts kind of early and get off work and bring your axe in or whatever and sit down and play, and then get to play with me and stuff. Maybe drummers who always want to play with me, they can just come in and sit in and have a blast.
Oh man, that's worth the price of admission. Where's the club?
Oh. It's a place called Celebs. It's at 207th and Sandy Boulevard.
Okay.
And it's so far out that it's in another town. It's called Fairview, Oregon. Okay. But if you just write Portland and look for several celebrities at 207th and Sandy. But it's edge of town.
I'm curious about
hitch up your buckboard to get out there. What's that?
The live music thing. Before we went on air, you and I talked about this gap, because I'm sure that you're in the same boat that I am, that I've never gone this long without a gig ever in my life. Yeah. And it did things to my head this year. Right. I mean, I really, and what I didn't want to do, everybody that I know that's a musician, they're like, oh man, my chops are getting good. I'm practicing all the time. And I don't want to practice. I don't want to feel like I'm playing in my garage by myself. Like, how is that for you, man? Do you feel like you?
Well, I practiced a little bit, but not enough to create like other levelness or even keep upness. I practiced some, and then right before these things started to re-crack open again, where there's actually gigs. And what got me after that is I played a couple of weeks ago. I played a couple shows, and so people are hungry. So there's a guy that always videos all of his stuff. He came out and videoed it, and I was so. To me, I can only judge me from me, but I was so mundane and non-inspired that it got me out crazy practicing where I was doing chop stuff. So you can play scales where all the notes are actually really even. So it got me doing the rudiment, get your crap together stuff. Gotcha. It just hit me so hard that it was like, no, man, I can't go in this plan, this. And of course he posts them up, and I looked at him, I was like, oh no. Oh, wow. Gary. Oh, come here, Gary. Come here, come here, Gary. Let me hug you. Poor fella. That's what it felt like from my perspective. So yeah,
man, well, I mean, you're obviously your own worst critic, for me.
Yeah, well, and rightly so. That's how you get good. If I just kind of went, oh, that's fine. And I didn't pay enough to play good. If I had any of that, it wouldn't, I could put it in that out box. But don't have that. So it's like, no, I want to be doing right when I'm playing. So that's, yeah. Yeah.
I've never seen you mail it in. And I don't think that there's.
I tried. Oh, we had a gig where I was not ready for it. And I did here a few years back. What had happened this gig was going to be Nu Shooz and Animotion, and playing at a theater in like Everett, Washington or somewhere. And speaking of phoning it in. And what happens, the gig got canceled. I was down visiting my kid, and I took my bass down, and he's in Atlanta. That's where, the world is, for hip hop world is Atlanta, not Hollywood. It's Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it is also Hollywood. It's not in the, okay. And I went down, I had my stuff, and I'm, headphoning it, and I'm working on Animotion stuff, and the gig gets canceled. Oh, shit. So I just don't even look at it. Walk away from the table on that stuff, right? And days before the gig gets, it's back. It's like, my French. Oh, shucks.
You can swear on
learn these tunes. Oh, no. So, I mean, even while we're traveling up in the bus, there's Nu Shooz. I got Nu Shooz book. I know Nu Shooz book. I don't know Animotion's book for crap, right? So I'm headphoning it even on the way up in the tour bus to I'm trying not to listening to it, trying to get the songs right, and doing that whole thing. And then I get up and it's just like, man, I don't have this stuff. And you were very kind and very gracious. It was like, no, man, you did fine. No, I didn't.
Oh, buddy, listen.
I didn't nail it the way it should have been.
I felt that way about my performance with Nu Shooz too, honestly, because that stuff is so soulful.
Killed it.
Oh, man.
You killed it. That's the historic event that I wanted to talk about that happened.
Okay.
Nu Shooz got back together for like a 3-hour tour. We got back for just a few years. So we're going to put 3 years together back at like 13 through like 17, right? Just to pull the band out and do that whole thing. And we got back together for a while just to do what we do and just have fun with it and so forth. And you've had Valerie and John on. I don't know if they made reference to this specifically. But the drummer, Nu Shooz drummer, couldn't go.
Right.
So who do we know that could nail this gig to the wall? Kevin Rankin can do that. So Kevin Superfoot Rankin came out with that boom crack, man, and laid that stuff down. Ba-boom, boom, crack, boom, boom. Ba-boom, boom, crack, boom, boom, right? So it's just bouncing along. Here it is.
I wish it felt that good.
So the last time the full band of Nu Shooz played together as a band, they've done track dates, John, where you get out with recorded music. They've done track dates, but the last full band Nu Shooz is Kevin Rankin on drums.
What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, we didn't play another after 80s in the Sand, which I'm of, and that's a wonderful little venue that they do every year where they put all these 80s bands and you can come and stay out. So Steve Robinson, I want you to know, it'll get to you somehow that I plugged your 80s in the Sand for you. So
yeah, man, well, he watches the show.
No, that's a crazy cool thing where all these 80s bands get together. We were on, it was Jody Watley and Motion, Nu Shooz. Thompson's, Howard Jones, Loverboy, Night Ranger. We were there together with Nu Shooz.
Yeah.
And there's more. I'm missing, you know, the motels were there.
Stacey Q was supposed to play.
What's that?
Remember, we were going to play with Stacey Q, and
it didn't happen. Well, yeah, technical stuff, and a whole bunch of crap went down, and it was like, I tried, man. I tried as much as mojo as I could to help thing happen. It didn't happen. So,
man, I'm glad you talked about that event though, because people that are watching this, maybe they've gone on cruises before, the music cruises. You know, you've seen, this thing where you're stuck in your kind of bunk room until you can go out and see a concert, and people are drinking on the boat. The 80s in the sand thing was really special because you had so much freedom. You could go off, and it started in the Dominican Republic for the first few years, and then they moved it to Cancun. So it's in Cancun now when the pandemic's not happening. But regardless of where it's at, you're in this beautiful tropical place where you can go and walk, hang out in the ocean, or you can go and play with the monkeys like I did, and you can go zipline and all that.
Yeah, you did monkeys. Yeah,
I did.
I
yeah, man. But the cool thing is all these bands, like you could see, like you mentioned those bands, you can see Jody Watley, Night Ranger, Nu Shooz, Nanomotion, and whatever, Loverboy, like all rock bands, pop bands, funk bands, R&B bands, and they're all from that era of the 80s. But there's so many different styles, and it's so fun. You can just turn off the world for like 4 days, right? And just unwind. It's the coolest vacation. So it's not that I'm trying to plug it for Steve, although it's a great thing. But
Steve Robinson, 80s in the Sand rocks, and we love it. There's some real honest to God 80s folks saying that. So there you go. 80s in the Sand. It's in Cancun, I think you said. Currently.
Cancun. Yep.
Unless somebody from 80s in the Sand wants to pay my way this year, I'm not going. Yeah. Maybe it'll be somebody, hey, I won the lottery. I'll hang out. I'll get Fountaine down here.
They should, because you are the ambassador of good times, man. When we were there.
Thank you. You should. Look who's talking. Ambassador of good times.
One thing about it,
pumping each other up.
I know, man. But the cool thing is, sometimes 80s artists or any musician, right, that has had some recognition and notoriety is unapproachable, and all these fans of the music and these people that just came down to party for a week, you're out hanging in every single pocket, talking to people like freely, taking pictures.
I love it.
Explaining stuff.
I love it.
I see that happen locally too. You can go out when the pandemic's not happened. You can go out any night and see Gary Fountaine playing with all sorts of bands, from Five Guys Named Mo to like a pickup gig to kind of an R&B or hip hop or top 40 gig. We've done some fun gigs. I was thinking about the Blue Monk with Eddie Martinez, right?
Oh yeah, that's a picture that you used to pump this.
That's right, man.
I was lit up in that picture. Eddie was playing some stuff that was ridiculous. It was, and it made me just light up. And I was playing it, and somebody captured that image of me just lit up. Eddie's just digging into some craziness, and I'm just like, thank you for using that picture. It was a wonderful picture.
It's one of the best
second
times
of life.
I have those snapshots where I look back and think, what a blessing. Like, who on the planet gets opportunities like this, right?
I know.
It's one thing to be in the Blue Monk where there are 8 people watching the show, but I'm on stage with the greatest musicians on the planet, and I'm thinking, pinch myself. Like, no, I mean, all of you guys. Eddie was such a beautiful surprise to me. When he moved to town, everybody on the planet has heard Eddie play guitar. They may not know it, but if you look at his credits, you see hundreds and hundreds of Grammy award-winning records. Everything from Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell, to David Lee Roth, Crazy from the Heat, to Patti LaBelle and Chic and Rod Stewart and Tina Turner, all of them. But he's so unassuming, he's so humble, and then he gets on stage, and you hear his tone, and you hear his feel, and you think, why is this guy not on the biggest stages of the planet? Making the biggest. He's
been on them.
Oh, he has. But it says a bunch of
Live Aid with Mick Jagger and Tina Turner. That was Eddie Martinez on that.
God, man. The thing is, it shows a little bit about how fickle the industry is, but it also shows his priority level, because yeah, he could still be out there doing that. He could be out with Rod Stewart or anybody else, but I think he recognized that, been there, done that. You know, the things that he really wanted to pursue were more about family. He came to take care of family in Oregon, and he could still do what he wants to do. He put out his record, right? He came out with this amazing Akosua, I believe is how you pronounce it, or Akosua. Anyway, named after
Akusa, I think.
Akusa. Okay.
Whatever. I don't.
It's a great record with great players.
It's a wonderful record.
What I was thinking, the only reason I bring that up, and I think about his discography, is when I started looking back at the credits that you've got, there's a ton of stuff with Nu Shooz, and we can go through the Nu Shooz stuff, but you've also got like composer and producer credits with your boy on like the Drake record and Cardi B. There are credits out there.
Actually, no. Let's thank you for you researched well. My son, who goes by Nonstop the Hitman, who I've always called Evan, is actually Gary Evan Fountaine. So it'll say on credits Gary Fountaine, but it's actually him, not me.
Okay.
So I would love to say, well, you know, that is I produced a little.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe he threw you a little bone.
No, that's my boy. That's
okay.
The kid.
All right, so let's talk Nonstop. All right, so Nonstop grows up in the house of Gary Fountaine. What is
we got divorced? Me and his mom got divorced too.
Okay.
Well, we're also very friends. They're friends now. You know, you could hit the loving with each other type of friends. You know what I mean?
I'm there.
When you're on Facebook, that's wonderful. And she'll put up a picture of the kids, and that's love, and then she'll hit love back. So we're divorced, but that kind, right? The kids really mostly with her.
Okay.
She's crazy. She is one of the best natural mothers I've known. You meet some people are like a shoe-in, you know. Yeah. And she's the ex-wife, man.
You know, I think we have that in common, right? So let me ask. Former wife, amazing mom, and a wonderful person, and we were great friends. But I'm curious to know, because people that haven't been married or people that aren't musicians, they may not understand how a musician's life can affect a long-term relationship, right? For me, my wife and I met when we were 12, right? So I grew up with her.
Oh, yeah.
She knew where the spark was for me with music. And so she always tried to support that as my fulfillment and not want to get in the way, because she didn't want to cause resentment. But what she never let on was how she really took a back seat to my pursuit of music and my passion for music. And I recognize it now. I got a lot of guilt about it, and I feel bad. Tell me about your relationships. How was it affected by your music life?
All of the above with that, it kind of all of the above. As you later on in your life and career, it's not as much that. I mean, it just kind of, it's when you're in a pursuit of something like you are at 21 or something, or whatever, whatever age you're really then it's like you're driven away. And later on, it's like, I'm just playing good gigs and want to play better gigs. And that's, so it's the emphasis is different. I mean, the having the band widow is more me trying to learn somebody's book, and I can sit on the couch and do that with headphones, So it's not like, I'm away somewhere, and if I wind up going out of town to an 80s in the sand, Steve Robinson, listen to that 80s in the sand. Is that? If I wind up going off and doing something like that, it's all you're in place, everything's in place, so it's not, Yeah. Oh, my dad, there is actually a place to hear him on YouTube machine. There's a band called the Five Scamps, spelled just that way, the Five Scamps. And they were kind of a who's who of Kansas City back in the day. And there's a song called Five Scamps, Buy Myself a Mule. It's just sort of a lyrical, maybe kind of Louis Jordan style. I'm not going to try to explain Louis Jordan's kind of jump.
Okay.
Buy myself a mule. I'm going to buy myself a mule. When it's kind of, and Pops is on that track. So.
Oh, that's cool. Right on. Like that was the Five Scamps. Speaking of who's who players. Somebody in the chat here, man. Brian Harris on keys is one of those guys.
Yeah, he's that's my team right there. My own whole Brian. Yeah, we've terrorized a few venues.
I love that cat. I've never gotten to play with him, but I'm a huge fan of his playing. We've hung out, done Christmases together. So Brian, you need to be on this show. I know that I've pinged you, but I just haven't made a date happen. That guy's got stories, and we're mutual fans of certain football team, and so we'll talk some Seahawks. And but you know, when you get guys like that, right? So people that are outside the scene, they would be blown away to see little sleepy Portland that has all these guys that have come from metropolitan areas that would be huge any place else. But there's something about Portland that it draws people, you know, and because we've had this pandemic, all of these guys, if they're, you know, if they've been depending on music for not only money, financial, but also their heart and their soul and their spirits in it, they've gone through this identity crisis, you know? Yeah. And I know for sure that was a big thing for me, was that when it first started and we would see gigs get canceled, I don't think it hit me at that point. Right. I'm sitting home for a while thinking, okay, you know what? Life has been really busy for me for a long time. And maybe it's good for me to slow down a little bit, take a couple months off and just reflect, not realizing we're going to have a lot more than a couple months. Right. And so then I went through the identity crisis thing where Kevin Rankin, the drummer, all of a sudden had to become somebody that was something else. Right. So tell me about that piece for you. Did you kind of go through the same thing?
Yeah, but it's funny for me. It's not like a recognition of it. It's like, okay, I'm not doing that now. I'm doing this now. You know, I'm just kind of making stuff with that whole. And then there's just something so missing. You start to feel like if I had some sort of a medical event where I couldn't play, or it must feel like this right here. It must feel something like this. Except, you know, I can practice, and maybe if I had some sort of a medical event where I couldn't play, then I may not even practice or practice up to any sort of an ability. But it's more high. My best vision is a rear view mirror vision. I see stuff as I pass it. When I'm looking in the rear view mirror, it's like, oh, that's what that was. Oh, okay. So that's what this COVID time has been for me. It's like well, the end result, you know, a few weeks ago, everything you're back to, hey, you're playing shows. Can remember the songs pretty much. Yeah, it's actually one tune. It was an easy tune too, a real cool kid floating around playing guitar, and he got up on stage and he called the song "Autumn Leaves" of all things, right?
Out of the book.
You know? Cool. And every time we'd come up on the bridge in that song, I'd have a question mark. Wait, is the bridge go to? Is it on? Yeah, which is also part of it. You know, watching it. Looking in the rearview mirror. It's just like I didn't feel enough connected to my instrument to be able to. Of course, I was like, oh yeah, you hear? Oh yeah. It all just falls into place. So yeah, that was part of the intense practice and, you know, metronome tick, you know, and trying to, you know, do your thing with that. Yeah.
Well, shaking the rust off is different, right? I mean, like you went through that phase. How long did you go where you didn't have a gig?
A couple months.
Okay.
3.
That was probably the longest gap you've had since you were 16, huh?
Right. Oh no. Yeah. Oh, by far. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Nothing. There's no parallel to it in my life since I was a young kid. Yeah. There's no parallel. Started working. I had that much time off. It's just.
You know, on this show, I mean, a lot of mutual friends, right? A lot of the bands that we've toured with, like 80s in the Sand type stuff. And when I've gone out with Lost 80s Live, you know, the Animotion first and then Flock for the last few years, I've gotten to be really good friends with all these bands that have had a resurgence from the 80s, right? So bands like Wang Chung or Naked Eyes or, you know, Motels or any of these bands. It's cool that you got an opportunity to get out there and connect with people that you never would have believed you could, because the 80s thing came back so hard. A lot of these guys are here in the chat, you know, Claudia that mentioned she hadn't seen you live, but she's danced to I Can't Wait a million times. This gal is so supportive of music and she's such a wonderful human. I met her in London. She's from Bonn, Germany. And she knew that I was typically purple mohawk guy and I needed my hair done because she's seen pictures from the tour where my hair is starting to go bad. So she brought all of her stuff from Germany to London and did my hair for me. Brought all this, like razors. And I don't know how she got on this plane with all this stuff, but but it was so important for her. She was a big fan of A Flock of Seagulls. And I never would have thought, right, that the bands would draw these people from around the world and get to meet these people that are wonderful human beings. And they're not fans to me. I mean, they're all, and I know you're the same way, man. They become friends, they're family and supportive. Yeah. When that stuff went away this last year, I've talked to all these musicians from the bands where they went through like serious identity crises where, they're are pals down in Australia from some real notable bands. We've been talking offline lately. And they are struggling with the world caving in, right? Because Australia is killing it, man. They've only had 1,000 deaths. It's tiny compared to every place in the world. They shut everything off, but they also can't go tour any place because the rest of the world is blowing up. And it's hard for them, right? Because they feel withdrawn. They feel isolated the way we do, right? When we're stuck at home, but they're really isolated, like in their country. Mike Score, our singer, he's stuck in the UK. He can't leave. He's, locked down. And we have the shows that were booked that, of course he can't fly out to come do. But I'm curious, like, how do you deal with that stuff? If you've got 3 months off?
I think it's really the kind of way everybody does. I think if you boil it down, it's connection. It's what that whole thing is. It's like, and with the who did your hair and stuff, that it's a human connection. You don't realize what it means to you till you're without it.
Right. And
I think the whole planet has, to a greater, lesser or greater extent, had to deal with that. And I think that's really is ours is, how do you explain that just stage and just throwing sound that I got all this connection. I mean, was of people needed us or need us like we need them, but for me, it's not conscious. I don't sit around and think, well, these people need me, or I sure need these people. I just do what I do, and this is what happens.
Right.
And it's that, but that's what happens. It's a human connection. It's like you're all of a sudden, what the hell? Where So.
Well, it seems like you deal with it in a healthy way. For me, there were some unhealthy thoughts, right? I just felt like, the world didn't make sense. I felt very immature in my thinking. A lot of, my emotional sobriety was messed up, right? Mm-hmm. And as you know, I've been recovery program for a while, man. And
I got something to tell you about that later. We'll have to chat online about something. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, but yeah, no, I mean, I know a lot of friends of mine that had gotten sober, dealt with addiction issues and substance abuse issues during the pandemic. It was a real struggle for them. A lot of relapse, a lot of people fell off the wagon.
Oh,
and so there was the physical sobriety that was shot, along with emotional sobriety, spiritual sobriety. For me, I didn't have any interest in getting loaded, but I certainly lost my mindset where I felt like, man, I can conquer anything. Playing on stage, man, you feel invincible, right? And I felt like, man, I lost some of my superpowers, man. It pissed me off.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So I am
well put. That's a kind of well put. It's like I have some sort of a little superpower on planet Earth, and all of a sudden there's kryptonite, and I can't do. I'm missing that.
Yeah.
That's what it kind of feels like. Yeah.
It does. Yeah. But I've talked on the air about you and your personality and how the only time you're not smiling on stage is when you're so deep in the groove and your solo that it looks like you're having a conversation with yourself. Like it's kind of a sexual thing, man. I see sex face on you when you're soloing. But you do have this great personality. Really, I mean, you're engaging, you're personable, you bring people in, and I love that about you, man. I mean, I think one of the things that I miss is being on stage, where
yes,
I get that look from you, man. You turn around and we got a thing. I'm not talking the sexual thing.
It takes us. You look at each other for a second, like we got all of that one, didn't we? Or so I don't know what the words that go with that are, but there's a connection where you both look, smile, because you both knew whatever that was it right there. So yeah.
And so if you guys are out there and you're watching bands and you see that happen on stage, that's the goosebump moment that we do it for, man. It's really great when you get that moment too, where you make a connection with somebody on the floor or out in an audience, and you can see that they're so into what you're doing that you just had that thing, man. That's the unexplainable thing that people would pay for if you could, but you can't pay for it. You know, it's unexplainable. I'm going to shift gears for a sec, because one thing I do on every show that's fun and kind of unexpected, people that know Gary Fountaine, what would they be surprised by knowing about a guilty pleasure that you have?
A guilty pleasure, chocolate. Yeah. That'd be a guilty pleasure.
Okay. How about musically? If I pulled up your iPod, what am I going to hear on there that I would think, what? Are you kidding me?
Oh gosh. You know, you might be surprised. It might be, I think the world of carpenters from back in the day, where at the time in life, it was so unhip to like the Carpenters. You know, it was so not hip. But I listen to that, or I can listen to like Barry Manilow's stuff and be just stunned at how well he kind of shot the ball on trying to get the perfect pop song for the time. Because perfect pop songs, you can tell, I think our musical ear allows us to tell, even if it's not from our stuff, right? But you can, that's perfect. That for that moment in this thing, I nailed it 100%.
So 70s
soft rock some of the weird stuff that you might find in my iPod. It would be more like, the memory stick in the car for the stereo. That's where you'd find the Barry Manilow or something might be on there or whatever. It'd be right next to Bootsy Collins too. That's the funniest part, because I scroll through it and it's like Bootsy and that and the car bread. How about Bread?
Oh man,
that to me, really like that. So it'll be this eclectic stuff. Be like, why would one put these two songs on the same playlist? Well, works for me.
Yeah, it does, man. I mean, you've seeing you in so many different environments on stage, you have to have been exposed to it, done a bunch of different music, and I could tell that you're a fan of that music. Speaking of fans, that video that I played at the beginning, that live solo, was shot by the person who just chimed in on the chat, Terry Shockley. Good to see you, pal.
Oh, yeah. Terry he's the guy that got me to practice again. Hey, mates, he wrote.
Yes, he
did.
Yeah,
Terry Shockley. Yeah, that's right.
Mike Klaus said he didn't know if he had seen you on stage, but I guarantee he has. Mike is a huge music supporter and music fan in the Portland area. He says, I love watching the interaction between players on stage. There is it's kind of funny, because as a fan of music too, I love going out when I see that thing happen, and you're going to hate that I say this, but it's kind of like you're voyeuristic, right? You're a voyeur watching this unspoken thing happen. And I don't mean to make it sound sexual, but there is a thing that you just can't explain. Right. And when you're on stage,
it's human connection. Yeah. You just can't sexualize it, I suppose. You could take it down that thing. It's like when you meet a gal who feels like she knows you, and she's thinking, well, she doesn't know me at all, but she's really attracted to whoever she thinks I am. She's thinking. So,
let me ask you about that. Are you in a relationship right now?
I'm currently not.
Okay, so then it's easier and more appropriate for me to ask you about this. You've been in rock bands that have been the biggest bands of the era at the time. You're at a show, and I've seen it happen. You're approached by a gal who's she thinks you're hot. You think she's a big fan of the song and the band. Where is the level of boundary for Gary Fountaine? How far do you let him in?
This is going to sound oddly like I'm trying to brag on me, but I'm not. I have a low level of being a scoundrel. And I look in the rearview mirror and think, had I been a bit more of a scoundrel, my career would even be better today. Yeah. If I had, like when I moved to LA for a few years and did that whole thing, had I just went out and found me a girl to hook up with and get close to and stuff, then there would have been times like when I got called for a big audition, I wouldn't have had to go in and I could call into work and say, I have to audition with Montrose here in a few days, back when Ronnie was still around. And I got to sit and work on these tunes, and the gal could have, oh, honey, just stay home, you know, and that kind of a thing, where I didn't have those sort of options in LA, because I didn't find me like a, you know, because I'm not, it's not in my, my core, pardon me, but it's not my way. And so as a result of that, I think, God, I could have, you know, I might still be in Los Angeles had, had I had a bit more scoundrel in me in that whole thing. And still, for a large percentage of the girls I've ever been with and dated, we're like Cool and the Gang friends. We are like buds, you know, it's like check-in buds and stuff. It's, you know, as opposed to, I hate him forever. That's true. I got that too, but you know.
Yeah, it's certainly better to leave things amicable.
I can't change that in somebody else if they've decided, you know what.
How important is that to you, to be able to go back and change some of those relationships if you could? You know, the people who just said they wrote off Gary Fountaine.
Yeah, it's aspirational. It's aspirational if it's kind of my side of the street thing, you know. Well, you talk about recovery in the way I know this recovery, alcohol and drugs. That's another a little thing people may not know about me. I've been clean and sober 34 years.
34.
I got off tour with Nu Shooz, you know, back when our big I Can't Wait world tour, you know, and got off that and went straight into it. I was like, I this guy, yeah, I can't do this, you know. And also, I was looking at it at the time, I was thinking, I don't think Valerie and John would have wanted me back, you know, had I kept on that path.
Right.
And I also thought it's going to hurt my relationship. So that's what my motivating factors were. It's going to hurt my relationship with my now ex-wife and kids.
Okay.
Everything was going to be broken if I don't figure this out right now and figure out. And then the second part is kind of that realization. Well, if the weird industry we're in, if I stay clean and sober in the industry, I'm going to have to figure out how to be find a trade or something. And so that was that kind of one might call a come to Jesus moment. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's really where you go, okay, this is it. And I've been playing, you know, I tease people. I said, what do you do for a living? I said, I sell alcohol for a living. Yes, meaning I go to a club, people come to hear me play so that bar owner can sell. So I don't myself, but I sell it. in an odd, you know, the way that goes.
Man, as you know, like substance use is such a huge part of the music industry. Right? I mean, like you and I have done so many gigs after getting sober that you see it happen all the time. And people that don't understand recovery or don't understand like kind of what happened as a shift in our mindset to want to go there. Like what you just mentioned didn't sound to me like a bottom. It sounded to me like this is a pivot point, right? Where I saw, if I went this way, I'm going to lose this. If I go this way, I'm going to gain that and more, right? And then you've seen over 34 years that, man, not only did I, you know, come away stronger, mentally healthy, all these other things, but you look back and you say, had I gone that other route, you talked about being a scoundrel. Had you still been in LA and you were still,
I'd be that sad story if I'd gone that other route.
Right.
I'd be that sad story. Oh, you remember him? Oh yeah, man, that guy could play. Yeah, man. Hey, alcohol and drugs got that guy way back. And he's been gone for whatever, 25, 30 years now or whatever, you know, would be the story.
We've heard that story.
This is clear. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
so that would have been me. I would have got to be that story, and I could see that viscerally. You know, I stood at the turning point. You know, care and abandon. But I stood at the turning point. I could see that this is where that was going. I was going to be that sad story, and I didn't do all this to be that sad story. So that's how, you know, that. For me, that changed. Now, other people, I see people who do this stuff fine. They drink fine and they do all that stuff fine. But I just learned for me that's, you know, I guess that's not me.
Right.
I had that conversation with a guy last night. It was funny. The guy I was talking to, he says, well, yeah, I messed around with this where I was, you know, back in the Army, but I was strong-minded, so I was able to get away from it. And I was like, oh, that's what it was. Oh, strong.
Yeah.
I did not bring it up. I just kind of know.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's what I see. I must mean I was. Oh, I was
weak-minded.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well,
I felt all that happen.
That's but again, I mean, that's just people that don't understand, right? But
they don't get it. No.
You talk to,
That's just
saying, I didn't work this hard to get where, to lose all that, to lose ground, the stuff I was working on. So I think it's really nice now, 34 years later, to look back. You got a gold record on the wall. You've got this armada of musicians that love playing with you, that are jump into the chat, and truly, I mean, for me, the greatest moments on stage, a good handful of those of mine, are experiences I had with you in front of nobody but you, me, Eddie Martinez. I think there were times that changed me, and I was really blessed by it. And since you're not that guy, 34 years later, I love to talk to people about what they want to be remembered for, so legacy for Gary Fountaine. Is there something that, we look at your gravestone and say, what am I going to see on your headstone?
If I would get to pick, it'd probably like something like, he is a good guy. That would probably be something, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Simple. I love it.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be profound. Just, I haven't heard,
because that's what I would. Go ahead, Kevin. Go ahead.
I just said I haven't heard anybody say, I want to be recognized for having a shitload of money, right? That never happens. But what it does for me when I get to talk to people about this, when they have perspective on accomplishments or achievements, when you look back at the end of the day and you think about what you've done or what you've had, you're not thinking about that watch that you could afford after, so many gigs.
No.
But the experiences you've had, the impact you've had on others, right? The impact they've had on you, those experiences to me, and it really ties into what you said, you want to be remembered as a good guy. I don't know anybody that's come across Gary Fountaine that hasn't had a positive experience, on stage, whether you're a musician or a fan. When you watch fans stay in touch with you. I watch it on social media. Yeah. You're engaging. Yeah. Terry Shockley says, a smile that softens your heart. You've got that, man.
Thank you,
on and
thank
off.
you.
And so I'm not trying to sit here and blow smoke up your ass. I think there are some people that you see and you meet that are put on this planet to do what they do. Some people just, they lose, they don't find that ever. And while the road is bumpy and, there's some adversity along the way, I've watched you, man, and I am just so proud of you, dude. Be able to call you friend and dude that I've shared space with. And so what's next for Gary Fountaine? You got some gigs coming up?
Yeah, as a point to that, I know we're going over time, but as a point to that, I remember you and me hanging out with the Bangles backstage at the local place down. It was just a blast, getting to know the gals just a little bit out, and it was just a blast, It was Kevin, man. It was your magic. I followed you around, dude. I was your wingman. I was like, we're going backstage. We happened to be on the American Bandstand together, the Bangles and Nu Shooz. Back in the day, we were on American Bandstand together. But you, in those environments, you don't meet and hang out.
Right.
You come in and they pull you. The Bangles come up, they do their set. There's dancers all over, stuff and leg warmers, and they're all getting ready to get on and just do the funky dance of the day, right? And that's all it was. And they, that whole side, I never got to know the Bangles back in the day, and just hanging out, we just chatted, and it was just sort of cool with when it would get to do it with Kevin Rankin. It made it even better. You gave me some pointers on some local musicians I was thinking about, man. I never went down those paths. I think some goodness as a result of that. But don't mess with that guy because of that guy, this and that. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
what's coming up?
Yeah, for you.
Just at this point, the big corporate band that I really like so much that it plays around town, it's called Five Guys Named Mo.
Yeah.
And that big band, and what I mean by corporate band is we'll play rich people weddings at the country clubs, And you think, you don't generally walk into the front door. Yeah. That cool band, Five Guys Named Mo. Our first gig is in June. So we had this whole year of cancellations, New Year's and everything just got canceled this whole last year. And so we're coming back on doing stuff. Got a few things in, and I think there's also a lot of tentative schedule, which means people are still doing that, ways to win COVID when you're blowing, so it's all cool, but that's going on. But I'm playing these little off night things. I got a thing at a local place called Garages that I do on Wednesdays.
Over in Beaverton.
It's called Jimmy's Hot Damn Soul Jam. A guy named Jimmy Harden runs it.
Okay.
And we do some stuff and got a great singer who I've actually been on national TV with twice. Her name is Myrtle Brown, and she a band I was in called Body, which was like when Nu Shooz sort of spread out back in the day. The rhythm section and horns all kind of started a band, and actually former members of Nu Shooz, and it was called Body and Soul. First it was called Sam and David, and it became Body and Soul. And that with Myrtle, got to be on the NBC Today show with her, and on a weird TV show called The Pat Show, short-lived variety show with Pat Sajak back in the day, late 80s, early 90s. But that band at Jimmy's Hot Soul Jam.
What night is that?
Brian Foxworth is on that drummer from the little bit of video.
Of course.
Brian's on that. Guy named Stacy Wade, who's played a whole bunch of shows, like with Al Green and stuff, is playing keyboards on that. And
what night is that? A week?
That's on Wednesdays.
Okay.
At Garages.
Right.
Jimmy's Hot Damn Soul Jam. And if I could talk him into it, maybe I can get like Kevin Rankin to come out and set in on something. You know Kevin, right? Oh.
Yeah, I'm quarantined though. I only get to go in the studio.
Okay. Gotcha, man. No shame in your game, but man, do it when you're right. When it's right with you, do it when it's right with you.
I'll get that shot. Boom. I'll get the one shot.
Yeah.
Speaking of, I get to jump out right now. I'm going to be in the studio with Mike Skill from the Romantics doing there's a guy doing a tribute album to the Go-Go's. And so we're doing a Go-Go's track tonight. Real punk rock style with Nikki Corvette singing, actually, which is going to be cool. She's out in Detroit. So this is a Detroit-based thing. Got some new stuff of his. He has really cool thing going on right now. But it was the second time I've got to play drums in 365 days. So for me, it's kind of like date night.
Paradiddle. Man.
You know what? We rehearsed it last night.
Tick.
It felt so good. He was saying, "Man, have you been playing this whole time?" And I think it was just, if I had to do anything complex, it would have been rusty. But I was so excited to play that it felt right. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited to come see you. I'll still make it out, even if I don't sit in the jam. I could bring my own sticks.
It's a big place.
Yeah. I know Garages.
It's a big place, so you can hide out. You can keep away from people. And
that sounds good, man. God, you know what? I'm so missing you. This is not fair enough because you and I need to be on stage, smiling at each other, interacting. But I'm glad that your buddies came in here in the chat. I really appreciate you guys all being here. And if you want to watch an archive of this, I'm going to actually rebroadcast this back on Facebook tonight at 8:00.
Okay.
So people there, 8:00 Pacific, you can go to Facebook, All Access Live, and you can watch this show. And then subscribe to this channel because I've got, I think, 157 other shows out there right now. So I think that's right. It's something like that. I can't even remember, but yeah, it's a lot of shows, man, since May. And so there are a bunch of great musicians, actors, actresses. Next week, I've got a lot of great local musicians. Got Dirk Sullivan from Love on Ice. I've got this guy that you probably met. He's in Toronto, but he's a musical historian. His name is Kayvon, and he's actually going to be on the show Thursday. I've got this wonderful new hip hop kind of R&B singer, Michael Illa. He's going to be on Wednesday. Then Friday, When in Rome, The Promise. Those guys are
cool.
Yeah, so When in Rome will be here. So subscribe to the channel. You're going to see a ton. I've got so many guests coming up. And Tawny Katane, 2 weeks from now. That'll be fun. I'm sure Tawny will say, she misses Gary Fountaine. She was at the 80s in the Sand the year after you were there.
After me, yeah, I never met her.
I did. It was fun. So we'll have a good recap, and maybe we'll do a shot-for-shot recreation of her Whitesnake video. Right. Well, she can.
Yeah, that's gonna happen. Yeah. I would. I'd write that in pen.
Okay. Yep, you got it. Gary Fountaine, man. I love you, as do everybody out here.
Oh, buddy, I love you. I'll contact you offline too about some recovery stuff.
Yeah, sounds great.
Like. And I'll get a hold of you. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you guys again for being here.
Thank you.
Come back again on Tuesday. Dirk Sullivan from Love on Ice, 3:00 Pacific. And you guys have a wonderful weekend. Be good humans, be good to each other, and then get out and see Gary Fountaine out at the garages. I'll see you, buddy. Yeah. Thanks again. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Working Man's Jam at Celebrities on Thursday.
On Thursday. Okay, there you go. Yeah.